Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com as always, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate RingsideNews.com. We are just 1 week away from another WWE pay-per-view. This time it's Elimination Chamber, but a lot of people asking about WrestleMania 33. There is a rumored card out for WrestleMania. Got your questions regarding that card and other topics. So let's get started today with the first one, which comes from @PatchFucked. I believe this is a first-time asker, if I'm not mistaken. I like the avatar, by the way. What do you think about the WrestleMania card? I think it's a good one. Don't understand why people complain. WrestleMania 32's card was way worse. I do agree with you. I think people are overreacting to the rumored card. To me, the card is fairly solid. I think that these matches for WrestleMania, from top to bottom, it's a pretty solid card in my opinion, and I think people are getting upset because of the fact that Kevin Owens isn't scheduled for the WWE Universal title match, and AJ, his match is uncertain. A lot of people feel Shane McMahon facing AJ is a step down for AJ. To me, that is a huge deal for AJ because it's going to get a lot of emphasis. Shane McMahon having a match at WrestleMania is a big deal. He's Vince's son. WWE is going to put a lot of stock into Shane McMahon's WrestleMania match. And for AJ to be against Shane, that should be a very entertaining match. And I could see the promos being very entertaining as well. I think people are quick to say that's a downgrade for AJ Styles. I think that if anything, AJ having a memorable match with Shane could help elevate AJ even further in WWE. Look at the match with Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon back in 2001, how awesome that match was. I mean, that's one of Kurt Angle's best matches and, arguably Shane McMahon's best match. I think AJ and Shane could have a really great match. You look at John Cena and the rumored match with him. I talked about this on the last video. To me, if they're going to do something with Nikki retiring and maybe John Cena proposing to her, then I really don't see the big deal about John Cena being in a mixed tag team match, and it helps elevate The Miz. The Miz is getting a big spot at WrestleMania. Goldberg versus Lesnar being for the Universal title, yeah, it sucks for Kevin Owens, and I would prefer to see Kevin Owens versus Jericho for the Universal title, but it is what it is, and WWE's trying to make Goldberg and Lesnar the biggest match possible and do whatever it takes to make that match appealing to the mainstream. And for a lot of older wrestling fans, the idea of Goldberg having one last title run is appealing to those older fans. I could see WWE from a business perspective wanting to make that match be for the Universal title. And we're still going to get an awesome Kevin Owens-Chris Jericho match, perhaps for the US title. A lot of people are upset about Dean Ambrose and where does he fit in. He's currently not rumored for a big WrestleMania match, which means he would probably be part of the Andre Battle Royal. The one match I would like to see added to the WrestleMania card is a Money in the Bank match, although that would be a Raw Money in the Bank match since the pay-per-view is going to be SmackDown branded, which still leaves Ambrose out of a match. I'm hopeful WWE is able to do something with Ambrose. He's the IC champion. The IC title should be defended at WrestleMania. So, in my opinion, that's the one big flaw, and they need something good for the women's title on SmackDown as well. Other than that, I think the WrestleMania card is fairly strong at this point. I do think people are overreacting. When it's all said and done, WrestleMania should be a good show, and I think it'll be hard to be a worse show than last year's WrestleMania. This one comes from LL Mr. Cool J. Why is WWE just wasting a once-in-a-lifetime talent with AJ Styles? The dude has yet to have a bad match. I can understand people being frustrated about him losing the WWE title, but let's face it, AJ's not a guy that WWE is going to build their company around. He's not going to be Roman Reigns or John Cena. AJ is going to be like a Chris Jericho. You look at Jericho over the years. Jericho has been one of WWE's top stars, but not often has he been in a WrestleMania main event match or even in a main event feud. Most of the time, Jericho has been right up there, feuding with the top guys and being in upper mid-card feuds, but never really a top guy. And Jericho's had an amazing run in WWE. He's been one of the company's biggest stars. And I think AJ can end up the same way as Jericho. I think that's the best way to compare AJ Styles, is to compare him to Chris Jericho. And I think when it's all said and done, if AJ's body holds up, he can have a run similar to Jericho, where he's going to be one of the bigger stars, but he's not going to be the biggest star in the company. So people need to not have those kind of expectations. I think some people are thinking AJ is going to have a run like Shawn Michaels, where for a period he's going to be built as the #1 star in the company. I don't see that happening. It's a different era now, and you have so many guys. WWE is basically a monopoly. It's not like you had WWF and WCW where all the big talents were spread across a couple of promotions. Now it's a different situation, and it's hard to break out and be the top star unless you have the company's marketing machine 100% behind you, like with Roman Reigns. So for AJ Styles, I think he's doing pretty damn well. And like I said in that previous question, I think with AJ getting the match against Shane at WrestleMania, they're going to want that match to be a huge success because McMahon is involved. You know, WWE doesn't like the name McMahon to be associated with something that's a failure. So AJ and Shane are going to be given every opportunity to have a show-stealing match at WrestleMania. So you have to look at it from that perspective. Got this one here from Zach. Should AJ Styles win the IC title? I know it's a drop, but it makes the title worth something again. Again, I could see people arguing that that's a step down for AJ, but you look at Jericho. Jericho was IC champion many times, and this was in between his runs as world champion. He'd be the world champion, lose the title, and then he'd go back down a little bit, go down and become the IC champion again. And in the end, it did not hurt Jericho. Jericho did elevate the IC title, and Jericho, when you look back at his career, one of the biggest stars in history, and he made the IC title important, he made the tag team titles important. Jericho just went out there and had great matches. So no doubt if AJ Styles was the IC champion, he could elevate the title and make it something special. So I do not think it's a bad idea to make AJ Styles the IC champion, and I do not see it as a huge drop from being the WWE champion, despite what some people might say about it, saying, oh, well, that's a sign WWE's given up on him. Not necessarily. I mean, it just shows that AJ, the company, has enough confidence in him to have great matches that he can carry that title and help elevate that title. Got this one here from Joseph. Hey Aaron, do you agree that the money matches post Rollins injury for Mania are Triple H versus Shane with Vince as the referee and Joe versus AJ or John Cena? I think with Triple H versus Shane McMahon, I'm not really a big fan of doing that match. I mean, like I said in the previous video, if Rollins is missing WrestleMania, I'd rather Triple H just not have a match at WrestleMania. Now, I think Triple H and Shane would be interesting if they were going to do some big stipulation, Raw versus SmackDown, and the winner gets something for their brand. But then again, you look at the real life politics and the reported backstage tensions between Triple H and Shane over the real life power struggle. Would those guys even want to do a match with each other? I mean, they might for the sake of business with Seth Rollins being hurt, but I don't know. To me, it's not something that needs to be done, and Vince is not going to be involved. I would be very surprised if Vince was involved. At his age, him being out there as the referee, I think that's very much a long shot at this point. Now, regarding AJ and Cena and Samoa Joe, I mean, I'd love to see Samoa Joe versus either AJ or John Cena at WrestleMania. I would love that. But at the same time, if WWE has a plan for Cena and Nikki Bella for WrestleMania, then maybe that's what's best for Cena. Maybe they should wait to do Joe versus Cena. Joe is just debuting. I mean, he's a fresh character now, and I'm hopeful Joe does get a match at WrestleMania. And that's one of the other things about that card. There's no Samoa Joe. They may stick him in the Andre Battle Royal, and if that's the case, he should probably win it. I am hopeful they come up with something for Joe for WrestleMania, but that remains to be seen. Who knows what's going to happen with Joe between now and WrestleMania, what's going on with Rollins. I mean, any number of things can happen, but he's another guy that I feel should have a pretty big match at WrestleMania. This one comes from B. Hill. Do you think WWE is using Roman now to get others over? If Orton won over anyone else, I think he would have gotten booed. A lot of people have made that argument, but I would say that's not necessarily the case. I think the fans still would have popped for Orton. I think there were other ways to get Orton over as a face without trolling the fans by having Roman Reigns enter as number 30. A lot of people were pissed off about that. Roman Reigns being number 30, WWE's idea that Reigns being eliminated by Orton would get Orton over as a babyface. I mean, there are other ways they could have done it. I mean, I've seen people throw out the idea before the Rumble that maybe they could have it be down to Orton and Bray Wyatt, and then Bray Wyatt instructs Orton to throw the match and eliminate himself, and that's when Orton refuses, and that's when you have the big turn and Orton goes back to being a babyface. That would have worked perfectly, in my opinion, and I think fans would have been very satisfied with the end of the Royal Rumble rather than have Reigns come in and just leave a bad taste in everyone's mouths. It's hard to say what the right call was, but I think there were other ways to go about it rather than have Reigns be a number 30. Just, you know, WWE doing it to get the fans riled up and annoyed. I mean, why do that? Why do that to your audience? I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm the guy that suggested having Miz come out to Daniel Bryan's music, but to me that's not nearly as bad as having Reigns come out at number 30, especially when fans were so upset about the 2014 and 2015 Rumbles. It's not something I would have done personally. Got this one here from Draven G. Could you see the WWE pulling a double turn with Reigns and Strowman on the road to WrestleMania? No. WWE is not going to turn Roman Reigns heel, at least not until WrestleMania. If they do it, they'll do it with Undertaker, and that's something where I'll believe it when I see it. I really seriously doubt that WWE is going to turn Roman Reigns heel. I don't sense the company is going to do it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they will. I think they should, but I think the odds are against it. And they're certainly not going to turn Strowman face and Reigns heel as part of a double turn. That, I would say, is almost a 0% chance of happening. Maybe someday Strowman will go face. I mean, that I could see happening. He seems to be building up some momentum, and fans seem to be getting into the character now that he's going out there and just being an ass-kicking machine, which is really what he should be. So we'll see. Maybe one day Strowman can be a face, but the double turn idea, I would say that's almost 0% chance. Got this one here from Logan D. Hey Aaron, what do you think about the Revival debuting an Elimination Chamber Turmoil match and winning the titles? I like the idea just for the fact that Revival would be on the main roster and you could do Revival versus American Alpha at WrestleMania. I would love to see that match, but realistically, I think it's very much a long shot. Right now, it's looking like Revival are going to be involved in the tag team title match at the NXT TakeOver Orlando show, possibly a three-way with Authors of Pain and DIY. That's what it's looking like at this point. I think, WWE's not going to call up a lot of guys in a short period of time. This is something I've said before. They just brought in Joe, and I think that's going to be it until after WrestleMania. I think after WrestleMania, maybe we'll see Revival, maybe we'll see Ty Dillinger, but until then, WWE is going to focus on getting the guys they currently have on the main roster on the WrestleMania card, as many names as possible. I think one of two things are going to happen. Either American Alpha will just flat out win at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, and then one of the teams like the Usos will challenge them, or the Usos will win the tag team titles at Elimination Chamber and American Alpha will have to win back the titles at WrestleMania. I could see WWE doing another multi-tag team match at WrestleMania just to get all those teams on the WrestleMania card, which I think is dumb, but they're going to do that to get as many people on the show as possible. But the focus, it's going to be on the Usos or one of those teams at this point, most likely the Usos until after WrestleMania. And then at that point, we could see the Revival debut on television and maybe feud with American Alpha. That would be great. This one comes from Dylan. Hey Aaron, what is your favorite Undertaker and John Cena match at WrestleMania? Undertaker is easy. The WrestleMania 25 match with Shawn Michaels. For John Cena, that one's a little bit tougher to answer. I think my personal favorite John Cena match at WrestleMania would be against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. That was a really great main event, and I think that Michaels and Cena had a tremendous match. To me, that was one of the most memorable ones. I'm thinking of some of the other John Cena matches. I mean, John Cena versus The Rock, the first one, which was a huge deal, but I wouldn't say it was my personal favorite. I would say the Shawn Michaels match. And for Undertaker, definitely the Shawn Michaels match. This one comes from Tomas. If Goldberg does face Kevin Owens for the Universal title at Fastlane, how long will the match be? My guess is not very long. I mean, I really do not see Goldberg doing more than a 10-minute match. I think this will be a test for Kevin Owens to see how good he is when it comes to carrying a 50-year-old man who has a very limited moveset and cannot do all that much. I mean, I think WWE, if they book this match for Fastlane, which is not 100% guarantee, it's not been officially announced yet, but if they do this match, and it's a very strong rumor at this point, then I think they're going to have to use a lot of different tricks to get that match over. A lot of smoke and mirrors, probably crowd brawling, a lot of different things. Jericho out there taking a beating from Goldberg. They'll do all sorts of things to pad out the match and drag it out as long as possible. But, my guess is that it'll be a 15-minute match at the most, maybe closer to a 10-minute match. And, it should be fairly short. It should be Owens trying to use every heel tactic in the book to retain the title, but in the end it's not enough, and then he's victim to the spear and the jackhammer, and that's it. Goldberg has one last title reign and then loses to Lesnar at WrestleMania and goes off into the sunset. That's what it's looking like at this point. This one comes from Magnus. Do you think the tension between CM Punk and WWE has died down? WWE does follow him on Twitter. Well, if WWE follows CM Punk on Twitter, that must mean CM Punk's return is imminent. No. I think that you'd have to ask CM Punk that question, and he's going to tell you no. He's going to tell you he's done. CM Punk, I think, one day will come back to WWE, but I do not think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think 5-10 years down the line, I would say if I had to place a bet on it, or somebody put a gun to my head and said, will CM Punk be back in a WWE ring someday? I would say yes. I would say it will happen someday. But for now, I don't think so. And I think WWE following Punk, or if Triple H is following Punk, that's no indication Punk's coming back to WWE. Got this one here from Jesse. What were your thoughts when the XFL came out, and did you watch it? This is actually a good question, considering the fact that it's topical with the XFL documentary recently airing on ESPN. I've watched part of that documentary, and it's brought back a lot of memories from the XFL. I watched the first game. I was curious like everyone else. WWE did a great job hyping up the XFL. I mean, that's what WWE does best. That's what Vince does best. They are masters at hyping things up in promotion. I mean, the phrase promoter. Vince is the best in the history of wrestling, in my opinion. I mean, he knows how to promote something. And with the XFL, they did a tremendous job hyping it up. But at the end of the day, I've said this before, and this is what I'll say again. It was too much wrestling for football fans, and it was too much football for wrestling fans. I am not a football fan. I do not watch football, never watched football. I tuned into the XFL because I was a WWE fan that was curious about what Vince had in mind. And when I watched it, I wasn't into it. It was football. I wasn't interested in watching football. But watching it, I could see football fans tuning in that were not wrestling fans and seeing this as a circus and just a second-rate football promotion and just quickly losing interest. So it just didn't work. And would it work if they tried it again? I mean, that's something a lot of people would debate. I understand Vince's viewpoint in wanting to try it out because of the idea that after the Super Bowl there's no football, and Vince wanted to fill that void. I admire Vince for trying it, but in the end it just didn't work out, and I could not get into it after watching one game. That'll wrap it up for this edition of No DQ&A Video. Thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it with a friend. Tell a friend, anybody you know who watches wrestling, to check out No DQ&A Video. As a reminder, this Monday, Raw is in Portland, Oregon. We're having a pre-Raw meetup. The event page will be listed in the description box, and also there will be a pre-Raw meetup before the Raw in LA in a couple of weeks. I'll also have a link for that. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding Elimination Chamber, and I will see you guys next time.